Commander Jake Morrison stood in the conference room, his mind racing through everything he had learned. The weight of the information felt crushing. 47 civilizations planning to destroy humanity. Decades of secret warfare. 6 months until total war. There's more, Commander Kulan said quietly. Things about the compact that even most of its members don't know. Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her notes. What kind of things? The military buildups are massive, far larger than what would be needed to simply defeat your species. The compact is preparing for something much worse than war. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What could be worse than genocide? The complete restructuring of galactic civilization. The compact leadership believes that human influence has already spread too far. They plan to eliminate any species that shows signs of behavioral contamination. The room fell silent. Lisa's hands were shaking as she tried to write notes. How many species are we talking about? Jake asked. At least 12 major civilizations, and perhaps 50 minor ones. Any species that has had significant contact with humans. Any military that has adopted human tactics. Any culture that has started valuing persistence over surrender. Kulan moved to the small window in the conference room and looked out at the stars. The Kreshtai will be eliminated because their warriors learned human fighting techniques. The Volani Trade Confederation will be destroyed because they started using human negotiation methods. The list goes on. Jake realized the scope of what the alien was describing. They're planning to destroy anyone who might think like humans. The compact calls it stabilization protocol. They believe that human psychological traits are a disease that must be completely eradicated from the galaxy. Lisa found her voice. But why are you telling us this? Your own species is part of the compact. Kulan turned from the window, his large eyes reflecting what looked like sadness. Dr. Carter, my species is also on the elimination list. The Aitora words hit Jake like a physical blow. What? The Zalani military has been studying human tactics for 2 years. We have started training our soldiers to show more persistence in combat. Our commanders have begun planning operations that would have been considered too risky before contact with humans. Kulan's skin shifted to the darkest shade Jake had ever seen. The compact leadership has decided that my people have been too contaminated by human influence to be trusted. So you're warning us to save your own species, Jake said. Partly yes, but also because I have come to believe that what humans call courage, the compact calls madness, and I prefer courage to the alternative. Lisa looked confused. What alternative? Galaxy where every species is afraid to take risks, where no one fights for anything beyond basic survival, where entire civilizations surrender at the first sign of real threat. Kulan began pacing again. Commander Morrison, I have studied the historical records of every species in the galaxy. Before human contact, galactic civilization was stagnant. No one explored dangerous regions of space. No one attempted difficult scientific projects. No one stood up to powerful enemies. That sounds peaceful, Lisa said. It was dying, Kulan replied. Civilizations that never take risks eventually stop growing. They become weak and timid. They wait for someone else to solve their problems. Jake was beginning to understand. Human influence changed that. Species that have worked with humans have begun attempting projects they would never have considered before. They explore dangerous areas of space. They stand up to threats instead of hiding from them. They risk failure to achieve something greater. The alien commander stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. The compact sees this as contamination. I see it as awakening. But if your people are marked for elimination anyway, what can you do? Jake asked. I can make sure that humans know what's coming, and I can hope that when the fighting starts, humans remember who warned them. Kulan moved toward the door. Commander Morrison, there is something else you need to understand about your species. Something that gives me hope. What's that? Human. Prisoners of war don't just survive captivity. They escape. And when they escape, they bring others with them. Lisa looked up from her tablet. Others? Every human prisoner we have captured has attempted to free other prisoners from different species. You don't just save yourselves. You save everyone you can reach. Jake felt a strange pride mixed with the fear and anger. That's just the right thing to do. Commander, most species barely care about their own prisoners. The idea of risking your life to save prisoners from other species is completely alien to galactic thinking. Kulan paused at the door. But humans do it automatically, without thinking, without being ordered. You see someone in trouble and you help them. So when the Compact attacks, they won't just be fighting humans. They'll be fighting every species that humans have helped, every prisoner you've freed, every civilization you've defended, every culture you've inspired to be braver. The alien commander's voice grew stronger. The Compact thinks they're planning to eliminate a dangerous species. They're actually planning to attack the one species that makes allies out of enemies. Jake realized what Kulan meant. You think other species will fight alongside us? No, they will. Because humans have spent 30 years teaching other species that some things are worth fighting for. Kulan opened the door but turned back one more time. Commander Morrison, the Compact believes they can destroy your species because they see you as isolated and outnumbered. They're wrong. Why? Because humans aren't just humanity. You're everyone you've touched, everyone you've inspired, everyone you've saved, everyone you've taught to be better than they thought they could be. The alien commander stepped through the doorway. When the war comes, the Compact will discover something that their computer simulations never accounted for. What's that? That humans are not just the galaxy's most dangerous species. You're also the galaxy's most loved species. And love is more dangerous than fear. Jake watched Kulan walk away, knowing the alien was probably walking toward his own death, but also knowing that humanity now had a chance to prepare for what was coming. He activated his communication device. Captain Hughes, this is Morrison. Change course immediately. Set heading for Earth, maximum speed. Sir, what about the diplomatic mission? Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about 47 civilizations preparing for war and 6 months to get ready. The diplomatic mission just became a warning mission. And Hughes? Yes, sir. Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them it's time to call in every favor we've ever earned. We're going to need all the friends we can get. As the horizon's edge turned toward home, Jake realized that Commander Kulan was right about one thing. When humans discovered they were being hunted, they didn't just fight back. They turned the hunt around. The galaxy's most dangerous species had just learned they were at war, and they were about to remind everyone why they earned that title. The alarms were screaming again on Zephyr Prime. Empress Veltara stood in her crystal throne room, watching the red lights flash across the walls. Her hands shook as she gripped the edges of her chair. Another world had fallen to the machines. Your Majesty, said General Krondar as he rushed into the room. His blue skin was pale with fear. The Nexus ships have taken Outer Colony 7. Our fleet couldn't stop them. Veltara closed her eyes. That was the third world this month. The mechanical beings called the Nexus Collective were destroying everything she had built. Her empire had ruled 12 star systems for 200 years. Now only 9 remained. How many ships did we lose? She asked. 43 destroyers and 12 battle cruisers, the general replied. The machines learned from our last fight. They knew exactly what we would do. The Empress felt sick. Every time her forces fought the Nexus, the enemy became stronger. Their artificial minds studied each battle and improved their tactics. It was like fighting an opponent who got smarter with every punch. Chancellor Kethmore entered the throne room. His long robes swept the floor as he walked. Majesty, we must consider other options. Our military approach is not working. What other options do we have? Veltara snapped. Should I surrender my empire to machines? No, Majesty, but perhaps we need help. There are rumors about a species called humans. They say these beings have won impossible wars. Maybe they could assist us. General Krondar laughed bitterly. Humans. I have heard of them. They are a young race from a small planet. What could they possibly do that our mighty fleets cannot? The Chancellor pulled out a data pad. According to my sources, humans have defeated enemies much larger than themselves. They use strange tactics that no one expects. They think in ways that other species do not understand. Veltara looked at the star map on her wall. Red zones marked where the Nexus had conquered her worlds. The mechanical fleets were moving toward her core systems. Soon they would reach the capital itself. "Tell me more about these humans," she said. Kethmore activated his data pad. "They come from a planet called Earth. Their military has won battles against overwhelming odds. Other species hire them when normal warfare fails. They charge high prices, but they get results." "What kind of results?" asked the general. "Complete victory. The humans don't just win battles. They end wars in ways that surprise everyone. Some say they use weapons we have never seen. Others claim they have strategies that seem like magic." Veltara thought about this. Her people were proud warriors. For generations, they had solved problems with strength and honor. But strength had failed against the Nexus machines. Perhaps it was time to try something different. "How do we contact these humans?" she asked. "I can send a diplomatic mission to Earth. We would need to offer them something valuable in return for their help." The Empress nodded. "Prepare an offer. Tell them we will give them 3 mining worlds and 1 billion credits if they help us defeat the Nexus." "What if they want more?" Kethmore asked. "Give them whatever they ask for. I would rather share my empire with humans than lose it all to machines." General Krondar stepped forward. "Majesty, are you sure about this? Hiring aliens to fight our battles seems wrong. We are Zephyrians. We should solve our own problems." "Look at the map, General," Veltara said, pointing to the red zones. "We have been trying to solve this problem for 6 months. How is that working?" The general had no answer. Everyone in the room knew the truth. The Zephyrian military was losing. Badly. Every engagement with the Nexus ended in defeat. Their enemy was too smart, too adaptable, too perfect. "Send the message to Earth," the Empress ordered. "Tell them we need their best generals, their strongest fleets, their most advanced weapons. Tell them we will pay any price for victory." Kethmore bowed. "It will be done, Majesty, but it may take weeks to reach Earth and get a response." "We don't have weeks," General Krondar said. "Our scouts report Nexus fleets massing near the border. They could attack our core worlds within days." Veltara stood up from her throne. She was tall and elegant, with the natural grace of her people. But now she looked tired and old. The weight of her failing empire pressed down on her shoulders. "Then we must buy time," she said. "Pull back our fleets to defend the inner systems. Let the machines have the outer colonies for now. We need to protect what matters most until help arrives." The general saluted. "I will give the orders immediately." As her advisors left the room, Veltara walked to the great window that looked out over her capital city. Millions of her people lived in the towers below. They trusted her to keep them safe. She had failed them so far, but maybe the humans could succeed where she had not. She had heard stories about human warriors. They were said to be fierce and clever, able to win against impossible odds. Some tales claimed they could destroy entire fleets with small groups of fighters. Others said they had secret weapons that could defeat any enemy. The Empress hoped the stories were true. She pictured human battle fleets arriving in her space, their powerful ships ready for war. She imagined human generals planning brilliant strategies to outfight the Nexus machines. She dreamed of human soldiers marching through her palace, ready to save her empire. What she did not expect was that Earth would send just one man with a laptop and a smile. Jack Murphy spent the next 2 days buried in data. He and Lisa Carter worked in a small room the Empress had given them, surrounded by screens showing battle reports, star maps, and resource charts. The Zephyrian military leaders walked past their door several times, shaking their heads and muttering about waste of time. On the 3rd morning, Jack called for a meeting with the War Council. General Krondar arrived looking annoyed. Chancellor Kethmore seemed curious but doubtful. "Empress." Veltara entered last, her face showing the strain of sleepless nights. "Well, Mr. Murphy," she said as she took her seat, "what have you learned from all your studying?" Jack stood up and activated a large display screen. A star map appeared, showing the Zephyrian Empire with red marks where the Nexus had attacked. "I've figured out what the Nexus is really doing," he said, "and it's not what any of you think. Enlighten us, General Krondar said sarcastically. Jack pointed to the red marks on the map. Look at the pattern. Every world they've taken has one thing in common. They all have quantium deposits. Quantium? Veltara frowned. That's just a common mining mineral. We use it for basic electronics. Actually, it's not that common, Lisa Carter said, joining the conversation. We checked the galactic survey records. Quantium only exists naturally in a few dozen star systems. Your empire happens to control the largest known deposits. Jack nodded. The Nexus isn't trying to destroy your empire for fun. They need quantium. For something specific. Every world they've attacked, every battle they've fought, it's all been about getting access to quantium mines. But they're machines, Kethmore said. What could they possibly need with our minerals? That's where it gets interesting, Jack replied. He changed the display to show technical diagrams. We analyzed the wreckage from your battles with them. Nexus ships use quantium in their computer cores. Not just a little bit. Massive amounts. General Krondar leaned forward. So they're stealing our minerals to build more ships? More than that, Jack said. Lisa discovered something fascinating when she looked at their expansion pattern. Lisa stepped up to the screen. The Nexus isn't expanding randomly. They're following a very specific path through space. Every system they've entered has a direct route to this one. She pointed to Zephyr Prime on the map. Our homeworld? Veltara stood up in alarm. Why? Because Zephyr Prime has the largest quantium deposits in known space, Jack explained. The other worlds they've taken were just stepping stones. The real prize is right here under your capital city. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the map, understanding dawning on their faces. They're not trying to conquer us, Veltara whispered. They're trying to get to our quantium. Exactly, Jack said. And here's the important part. Your military resistance is actually helping them. What do you mean? General Krondar demanded. Jack changed the display again, showing battle statistics. Every time you fight them, they learn something new. Their artificial intelligence studies your tactics, your weapons, your strategies. They get smarter and stronger with each engagement. But that's what enemies do, the general protested. They learn and adapt. True, Jack agreed. But think about it from their perspective. The Nexus are machines. They don't think like organic beings. They don't want glory or territory or power. They just want to complete their objectives as efficiently as possible. Lisa pulled up another chart. We analyzed their battle patterns. The Nexus actually try to minimize casualties and damage when they attack. They use only as much force as necessary to achieve their goals. That doesn't sound like a military conquest, Kethmore said slowly. Because it's not, Jack replied. It's resource acquisition. The Nexus see the Zephyrian Empire as an obstacle to obtaining necessary materials. They're not evil or malicious, they're just very, very logical. Empress Veltara sat down heavily in her chair. So what do? We can't just let them take our worlds. Actually, Jack said with a slight smile, I think you can. But not the way you're thinking. Explain, the Empress ordered. Jack took a deep breath. What if instead of fighting them, you offered to trade with them? The entire room erupted in angry voices. General Krondar jumped to his feet. Trade with the enemy? That's cowardice. Hear me out, Jack said calmly, raising his hands for quiet. The Nexus want quantium. You have quantium. Fighting you is inefficient for them. They have to build ships, lose equipment, spend resources on warfare. That's not logical behavior for beings who think in terms of pure efficiency. You want us to surrender? Veltara asked coldly. I want you to offer them a better deal, Jack replied. Think about it. If you give them access to quantium through trade, they get what they need without the cost of warfare. You keep your sovereignty and maybe even profit from the arrangement. They're machines, General Krondar shouted. You can't negotiate with machines. Why not? Jack asked. If they're intelligent enough to learn from battles, they're intelligent enough to understand the concept of mutual benefit. Lisa activated another display. We've run some calculations. The Nexus have spent enormous resources conquering your worlds. Ships, energy, time, materials. If they could get quantium through peaceful trade, it would be much more efficient for them. But how do we even communicate with them? Kethmore asked. They've never responded to our diplomatic signals. Because you've been trying to communicate like they're organic beings, Jack explained. The Nexus are artificial intelligence. They think in mathematics and logic. We need to speak their language. Jack moved to the center of the room. Here's what I propose. We send them a mathematical proposition, a logical proof that cooperation serves their objectives better than conquest. We offer them a trade agreement that gives them steady access to quantium in exchange for ending their military expansion. And if they refuse, the general asked. Then you're no worse off than you are now, Jack replied. But I don't think they will refuse. Everything we've learned about them suggests they'll choose the most efficient solution to any problem. Empress Veltara stared at the human for a long moment. This goes against everything my people believe in. We are warriors. We don't negotiate with invaders. Your Majesty, Jack said gently, sometimes the greatest victory is avoiding the fight altogether. Your people will be safer. Your empire will survive, and you might even gain valuable allies. Allies? Veltara laughed bitterly. With machines? Think about it, Jack continued. The Nexus have technology you've never seen. Artificial intelligence that could revolutionize your society. Manufacturing capabilities that could boost your economy. If you can turn them from enemies into partners, everyone benefits. The Empress walked to the window and looked out at her city. In the distance, she could see the defense installations her people had built to protect against the coming attack. Her entire civilization was preparing for a war they couldn't win. How would this work? She asked finally. Jack smiled. Leave that to me. I've got some ideas about how to talk to artificial intelligence, but first I need your permission to try. Veltara turned back to face him. Her advisors watched her carefully, waiting for her decision. The fate of the Empire hung in the balance. Do it, she said quietly. Contact the Nexus Collective. Let's see if machines can be reasoned with. Jack Murphy and Lisa Carter worked through the night preparing their message to the Nexus Collective. The communication had to be perfect. One mistake could doom the entire plan and possibly trigger an immediate attack on Zephyr Prime. Are you sure this will work? Lisa asked as she checked the mathematical formulas on her screen. Nothing is certain, Jack replied, rubbing his tired eyes. But it's better than watching the Zephyrian Empire get destroyed one world at a time. The next morning, they presented their communication plan to Empress Veltara and her council. The message was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of words, it was pure mathematics and logic diagrams. This looks like an engineering report, General Krondar said, staring at the symbols and numbers. That's exactly what it is, Jack explained. We're presenting the Nexus with a resource optimization problem. We show them that peaceful trade gives them more quantium with less energy expenditure than continued warfare. Chancellor Kethmore studied the formulas. These calculations seem to prove that cooperation is more efficient than conquest. Precisely, Lisa said. We've included cost-benefit analyses, resource flow charts, and efficiency projections. Everything is designed to appeal to logical decision-making. Empress. Veltara looked nervous. And you think they'll actually respond to this? If they're as logical as we believe, they have to, Jack replied. The mathematics don't lie. Working together serves their objectives better than fighting. The message was transmitted on all frequencies toward the nearest Nexus fleet. Then came the hardest part, waiting. The Zephyrian military continued preparing for battle while Jack and his team monitored communication channels for any response. 2 hours later, something incredible happened. A Nexus ship sent back a signal. It wasn't an attack or a threat, it was mathematics. They're responding, Lisa shouted, staring at her screens in excitement. Look at this. The Nexus had sent their own calculations, questioning some of Jack's assumptions and proposing modifications to the trade arrangement. They wanted specific guarantees about quantium quality and delivery schedules. They're negotiating, Jack said with a grin. Actual negotiation with an artificial intelligence. This is historic. General Krondar looked confused. But they're still our enemies. How can we trust them? They're not our enemies anymore, Jack explained. They're potential business partners. The moment they chose to negotiate instead of attack, everything changed. Over the next several hours, Jack and the Nexus exchanged dozens of mathematical messages. Each communication refined the proposed agreement. The artificial intelligence asked logical questions about mining operations, transportation logistics, and quality control standards. "This is amazing," Kethmore said as he watched the negotiations unfold. "They're treating this like a serious business discussion." "Because that's what it is," Jack replied while typing another response. The Nexus never wanted a war. They just wanted resources. Now we're offering them a better way to get what they need. The breakthrough came when the Nexus proposed a meeting. They wanted to discuss the agreement in person, or rather, in the presence of their negotiation units. They suggested a neutral location, an abandoned space station on the border between Zephyrian and Nexus territory. Empress Veltara was terrified. "You want me to meet with these machines face to face?" "Not just you," Jack said. "I'll be there, to help translate between human thinking, Zephyrian culture, and Nexus logic. Lisa will handle the technical details." "What if it's a trap?" General Krondar asked. "What if they capture the Empress?" "Then you'll be no worse off than if we hadn't tried," Jack pointed out. "But I don't think it's a trap. The Nexus have invested too much effort in these negotiations to waste them on deception." The meeting was scheduled for 3 days later. During that time, Jack helped the Empress prepare for the strangest diplomatic encounter in galactic history. They practiced translating emotional concerns into logical arguments and personal values into mathematical terms. "Remember," Jack coached her, "they don't understand concepts like honor or pride. But they do understand efficiency, mutual benefit, and long-term stability." "This feels wrong," Veltara confessed. "My ancestors would never have negotiated with invaders." "Your ancestors never faced an enemy like this," Jack replied gently. "The Nexus aren't conquerors in the traditional sense. They're problem solvers who saw conquest as the most direct solution to their resource needs. Now we're offering them a better solution." The day of the meeting arrived. A small diplomatic ship carried Jack, Lisa, and Empress Veltara to the neutral space station. The journey took several hours, giving them time to review their proposals one final time. When they docked at the station, they were greeted by something none of them had expected. The Nexus negotiation unit looked almost humanoid but clearly artificial. Its metal body moved with precise mechanical grace, and its optical sensors glowed with soft blue light. "Greetings," the unit said in a synthesized voice. "I am designated Negotiator Prime. I speak for the Nexus Collective in matters of resource acquisition and territorial optimization." Jack stepped forward. "I'm Jack Murphy, strategic consultant representing the Zephyrian Empire. This is Empress Veltara and my colleague Lisa Carter." "Your mathematical proposals were logically sound," Negotiator Prime said. "However, we require clarification on several implementation details. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in diplomatic history." Jack served as translator between 3 completely different ways of thinking. When the Empress expressed concerns about sovereignty, Jack converted them into questions about operational independence. When the Nexus asked about quality assurance protocols, he helped Veltara understand they were worried about getting defective products. "The collective requires a guarantee of quantum purity levels above 92%, Negotiator Prime stated. "Our minds can easily meet those standards," the Empress replied after Jack explained what the request meant. "Additionally, we propose sharing certain technological innovations that would improve mining efficiency by 37%. Veltara looked confused until Jack translated. "They want to give you better mining equipment so you can produce more quantum faster. It benefits both sides." The negotiations continued for hours. Slowly, an agreement took shape. The Nexus would end their military expansion in exchange for guaranteed access to quantum through trade. They would share certain technologies with the Zephyrians, while the Empire would provide mining expertise and local knowledge. "There is one final consideration," Negotiator Prime said near the end of the meeting. The collective finds human problem-solving methodologies to be intriguing. We request that Mr. Murphy serve as a permanent liaison between our species. Jack looked surprised. You want me to stay and work with both sides? Your approach to complex problems is unlike anything in our databases. This collaboration could prove mutually beneficial for all parties involved. Empress Veltara smiled for the first time in months. Mr. Murphy, it seems you've impressed even the machines. Jack grinned back. I guess I'm going to be busier than I thought. As they finalized the agreement, Jack realized something remarkable had happened. He had come to Zephyr Prime expecting to solve one problem. Instead, he had created the foundation for something entirely new. The first peaceful alliance between organic beings and artificial intelligence in galactic history. The war was over before it really began. And sometimes, Jack thought, that was the most human victory of all. 6 months after the peace agreement, Zephyr Prime looked like a completely different world. Human-designed factories worked alongside Nexus automation systems. Zephyrian miners used advanced artificial intelligence to find new quantium deposits. The capital city buzzed with activity as 3 different species learned to work together. Jack Murphy stood on the balcony of his new office, watching cargo ships carry quantium to Nexus worlds, while Nexus technology flowed back to Zephyrian colonies. The sight still amazed him. What had started as a desperate war had become the most successful trade partnership in galactic history. The morning reports are ready, Lisa Carter said as she entered the office. She now managed the day-to-day operations of the Human-Zephyrian Nexus Alliance. Any problems? Jack asked, turning from the window. Just the usual growing pains. The miners on Colony 5 need help adjusting to the new Nexus equipment, and Negotiator Prime wants to discuss expanding the partnership to include scientific research. Jack smiled. Problems we could only dream of having a year ago. Empress Veltara arrived for their weekly meeting, but she looked different now. The stress lines were gone from her face. Her empire was not only surviving but thriving in ways she had never imagined. Jack, I have news from the Galactic Council, she said as she sat down. 3 more civilizations have requested human consultants to help solve their conflicts. Really? Which ones? The crystalline hegemony is having problems with mineral raiders. The Botanical Confederation can't stop a plague affecting their food worlds. And the Mechanical Federation wants help negotiating with some organic rebels. Jack laughed. Organic rebels fighting machines and machines fighting organics. It seems like everyone could use some help learning to work together. The Council wants to know if Earth would be willing to train more consultants like you. Veltara continued. They're calling it the Human Problem-Solving Initiative. What do you think? Jack asked Lisa. I think we've proven that cooperation works better than conflict, she replied. If other species want to learn human approaches to problem-solving, why not teach them? Their conversation was interrupted by Negotiator Prime, who entered the office with his usual precise movements. The artificial being had become a regular visitor and something that Jack would never have expected. A friend. Good morning, colleagues, Negotiator Prime said. I bring updates from the collective. Quantium. Production efficiency has improved by 43% since implementing Zephyrian mining techniques. Additionally, we have identified 17 new applications for the mineral that we had not previously calculated. That's excellent news, Veltara said. What kind of applications? Medical technology primarily. Our analysis indicates that quantium-enhanced devices could significantly improve healing processes for organic beings. We would like to propose a joint research project. Jack nodded approvingly. See, this is what happens when different types of minds work together. You discover possibilities that none of you could find alone. Indeed, Negotiator Prime agreed. The collective has learned much from observing human thought processes. Your species approaches problems in ways that our logic algorithms cannot replicate. Such as? Lisa asked curiously. Intuition, emotional reasoning, the ability to consider impossible solutions that later prove practical. These are valuable capabilities that we wish to understand better. Empress Veltara leaned forward. Negotiator Prime, can I ask you something personal? What did you think when you first received Jack's mathematical proposal? The artificial being paused, processing the question. Initially, we calculated a 97% probability that it was a deception. Organic beings had never attempted logical communication with us before. However, the mathematical proofs were sound, so we chose to investigate further. And now? Now we understand that humans possess a unique form of intelligence. They combine logic with creativity in ways that produce superior solutions to complex problems. This Jack Murphy individual demonstrated capabilities that we had not encountered in any other species. Jack felt embarrassed by the praise. I just looked at the situation differently. Anyone could have done the same thing. No, Veltara said firmly. That's not true. My military advisors, some of the smartest people in the Empire, never considered that the Nexus might be willing to negotiate. They saw only enemies to fight. And our collective intelligence never considered that organic beings might offer logical solutions to resource acquisition problems, Negotiator Prime added. We saw only obstacles to overcome. So what made the difference? Lisa asked. Jack thought about it for a moment. I think it's because humans are stubborn. We refuse to accept that problems can't be solved, and we're too curious to solve them. The obvious way. We always want to find a better approach. That curiosity saved my empire, Veltara said softly. And it gave the Nexus something they never expected. Partners instead of enemies. Speaking of partners, Negotiator Prime said, the collective has a proposal. We would like to establish permanent human consultants in several of our core systems. Your problem-solving methods could improve many of our ongoing projects. What kind of projects? Jack asked. Terraforming, resource management, communication with organic species, social optimization. The applications are numerous. Jack looked at Lisa and Veltara. What do you think? Should we start training people for this kind of work? Absolutely, Veltara replied. The galaxy needs what humans can offer, the ability to find peaceful solutions to impossible problems. I agree, Lisa added. We've proven that cooperation works. Now we should help others learn the same lesson. 3 hours later, Jack stood again on his balcony, watching the sun set over Zephyr Prime. The city below sparkled with lights from 3 different civilizations working together. Nexus ships landed alongside Zephyrian vessels while human technicians moved between them, solving problems and building bridges. A message arrived on his communication device. It was from Earth's diplomatic corps, officially offering him the position of Director of Interstellar Problem Resolution. The job would involve training other humans to do what he had done here, find creative solutions to conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve. Jack thought about the offer. A year ago, he had been a simple consultant helping businesses solve everyday problems. Now he was being asked to help entire civilizations learn to work together. He activated his device and began typing his response. I accept the position, but I have one condition. We do this the human way. No armies, no weapons, no threats. Just people sitting down together and figuring out how to make things work. As he sent the message, Jack realized something important. The Empress had asked Earth for an army to save her empire. Instead, Earth had sent one man with a laptop and a belief that every problem had a solution. Sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The Human Problem-Solving Initiative would change how conflicts were resolved throughout known space. And it all started with a simple idea. When you can't win a fight, try starting a conversation instead. Jack smiled as he watched a group of human children playing with young Zephyrians in the park below. The next generation would grow up thinking that cooperation between different species was normal. They would never know how close their worlds had come to war. That, Jack thought, was the most human victory of all.